My girlfriend went on a one-on-one fancy dinner with a single male friend without telling me anything. Did I go too far by ending the relationship for this? First, this has happened a while ago, so it's more of a reflection than a request for advice. Sorry for the long text BTW. I've met my then GF in a college event about 2 years before the title event. We quickly became friends with benefits for almost a year before dating exclusively. Our relationship was going very well from the start, but if I'm being 100% honest, I kind of felt like she loved me more than I loved her, and maybe I was wrong in that. I did love her, cherished her, helped in whatever I could and would be excited to spend time with her, but I was never deeply infatuated with her like I felt that she was with me. So, what happened? Context 1, GF moved states for college, was in a kind of shitty living situation, living with extended family in a small house, and didn't made a lot of friends after moving. She only ever mentioned about 3 friends from our city, and of those only one was a guy, Dan, which attended some classes with her. One day he randomly started following me on IG, I followed him back, that will be important later. He seemed a pretty normal, if not innocuous dude. Context 2, one day GF bought a fancy book called something like 2 for 1. It was a collection of fancy and romantic restaurants and cafes to visit in couples in our town. This book came with 2 for 1 coupons for each of those restaurants. We went to some of those, but even with discounts they were kinda expensive for 2 broke college students. She really wanted to go to some which specialized in seafood, which she loved but I never liked, and we never actually went to. So, for the main fact. About 1 year into the relationship, my GF slept at my place basically every weekend, from Friday to Sunday. But eventually came a weekend when we wouldn't be able to see each other. I had to work late on Friday and had doctor's appointments which would take the entire Saturday, while she had some sort of family gathering in another city. She intended to sleep there from Saturday to Sunday, so if we were to see each other, it would be only late Sunday to dinner. So, on Friday I worked until about 21:30, went home and took a shower. After that, about 22:30, I picked up my phone and started going through my IG stories. Was passing through them mindlessly until something catched my eye, my GF's IG name. I went back and saw it was actually from Dan's stories, a picture of a very nice dinner, with some fancy grilled fish in a red towel, with candles in the table and some drinks. On the other side of the table, the face wasn't visible but I could see part of my GF's body, very well dressed with newly done red nails and a tiny bag I had gifted her, and her IG was tagged along with the restaurant's name. The story had been posted about 3 hours before. Bear in mind that, at that point in time I did not use Instagram a lot. In fact, it would be pretty normal for me to spend days without checking it, and I almost never check stories as well. It was kind of random for me to check it that evening specifically. After about 1 minute of looking at the picture, I put my phone down and started thinking. I wasn't angry or sad or desperate. It was like having another me by my side explaining the situation in third person. I laid down the facts and they looked like this. My GF went on a one-on-one dinner with another guy. I don't know the guy personally, never saw them interact and don't know if he ever showed some interest towards her or vice versa. All I knew is that he was single, straight, and apparently had a crush on a mutual friend of theirs. The place was a very fancy, expensive, and romantic restaurant, and she got the idea from this book which heavily implied it was for couples. For some reason my mind kept thinking that the waiters and other people around definitely looked at them as a couple, and that idea pissed me off. She did not tell me about this dinner before, during or after it. Actually when I saw the IG post she was already at home and ready to go to sleep after all that happened. I found out about this from his post in which he tagged her. Since she didn't say or post anything even hours after the dinner had ended, I was left with a strong impression that, if I never checked out my IG stories that night or if he hadn't posted the picture or if he hadn't tagged her, she would never had even mentioned it. I just wouldn't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do with that info. I texted her we should talk and she immediately replied with, "Oh, is that about the dinner?" and started flooding me with calls. I answered and she immediately started apologizing and saying that she was sorry that she didn't mention it, that it was unplanned, that they just ate quickly and went home, etc. By that point I hadn't said anything besides texting we should talk, and she went super on the defensive. That gave me the absolute certainty she knew that what she did was sketchy and shady, and knew I would be upset about it. Eventually she said something along the lines of, "I thought you would be pissed if I said I was going," which made me think about her thinking process. I believe she thought that if she asked me before going, I would said I wouldn't be comfortable with that, and either she would have to cancel it or go either way and willingly damage the relationship. She thought it would be easier to just go without saying anything and deal with the aftermatch by feigning ignorance and apologizing, or maybe hoping I never even found out. I didn't scream or cry in the call, I calmly laid the facts from my point of view to her, the list above. She immediately started crying and recognized it was a mistake, said that she allowed him to post the picture because she knew I would have seen it, assured me that nothing happened, he is just a friend, and said she would never do that again. She begged me to go see her that night, which I refused. I just went to sleep and said I would talk to her the next day. Sleeping on it, it actually felt worse. I actually believed her, and still do, that nothing happened between them that night, but I could never be certain. Best case scenario, I was dealing with a girlfriend that acted shady, manipulatively, and disregarded my feelings, and worst case scenario, I was being cheated on. And on the middle there was a lot of possibilities my anxious brain started to consider that weren't exactly great, like, maybe she was testing the waters to see if this guy had any interest in her, to keep him as a second option, or SMTH. That night I cried a bit to sleep thinking that I didn't want to make that decision. Next day we talked in person, she refused to go to the family gathering, and I thought that if I took her back I would never be able to trust her as I did before. I do have some trust issues and the relationship just wouldn't be the same. I decided to end it there, which was very tough for both of us but felt like the right call back then. Bear in mind that she was and still is a very nice girl, caring, introverted and romantic, and not the type to cheat mercilessly, at least she doesn't look the part. So, was I unreasonable? Did I overreact, or my boundary was acceptable and I did the right thing ending it off after she trespassed it like that? At the end of the day she lied and had no intention of telling you the truth. That's a deal breaker. She saw nothing wrong with lying to you, another deal breaker. If she can't be honest, why would you ever trust her? I mean, for some people, it might have not been breakup worthy. For you it was. For some people, they would see it as a learning experience and a reason to go to therapy or something. You decided that your trust had been broken and could not be re-established in a meaningful way. It sounds like it was right for you. And that's all that matters. And personally, though it's simple for me since I have no connection to her, I feel like you may have made the right choice. As an aside, the "it was unplanned" is an utter lie. She didn't just happen to be dressed to the nines. Part of me wonders if this was some poorly thought out test that she didn't really comprehend until the results were in front of her. She let him post the pic, but didn't mention it to you? That's just bizarre. Then again, 21. 20-somethings do dumb shit sometimes. If she had no shady intent, and was just naive or emotionally immature, she has now learned a sad but critical lesson about communication and trust. Comment. You weren't unreasonable. She knew you wouldn't like it, that's why she didn't tell you. Her reaction when you found out sounds a lot like better to ask forgiveness than permission. She may not have physically cheated, but going to an expensive dinner for two is about like a date. For me that would mean a violation of trust and breaking my boundaries of a committed relationship. At the end of the day she lied and had no intention of telling you the truth. That's a deal breaker. She saw nothing wrong with lying to you, another deal breaker. If she can't be honest, why would you ever trust her? Next story 2. My ex-wife has reached out to me after years. We were married for 7 years and divorced about 15 years ago. The reason at the time was our vision for the future wasn't compatible. I wanted a family, white picket fence, etc. She wanted to remain free and travel until her last day. FYI, at the time we were married, she shared my side of the vision. There is a cliche about remaining friends, but honestly I think we did at the beginning. She met someone and married him in 2010. He was older and had money and gave her that lifestyle. We were close enough that I was invited to the wedding and made a brief toast. Obviously with him in her life we drifted apart and basically played Facebook tag. When we divorced I was depressed and got therapy, but after she was married and gallivanting around Europe and the Caribbean I got really depressed. Therapy only helped so much. It took about 5 years to really pull through and be myself. I tried dating again and it never worked out. I honestly felt that I could never have been happier with anyone than I was with her. I regretted putting my foot down about how I wanted to live. Meanwhile, she was Facebook documenting their attempts to get pregnant, the one thing she was dead set against at all costs, to the point that she wanted to get her tubes tied just in case. Fertilization clinics, IVF, etc., but nothing took. They announced they had gotten a surrogate to carry their child, and tragically the child was stillborn. Her husband passed away privately in 2021. People only found out a month after his very private burial. I messaged her saying I would be there for her if she needed someone to talk to. I did not hear back. Aside from posting inspirational messages, etc., she went dark. On my birthday this year I received a card from her wishing me a happy birthday, thanking me for being such an important part of her life, and saying maybe we'll be in touch soon. This last Friday she called me. It was the first time I spoke to her directly in over a decade. It was light conversation. I didn't bring up much of the last 10 years, but she asked if I was free to get coffee or a drink today, Tuesday. She was going to be back near where I live on Thursday. I agreed. Since then we've texted a bit back and forth, being slightly more intimate. I get the sense she's testing the waters, so to speak, to see if there is interest there. From my end it is a double-edged sword. There really would be interest in seeing where it might go, but I don't think I could handle losing her a second time. I've asked a few friends and they've been split down the middle. Don't get involved again versus see what happens. What do you think? Has anyone ever been in this situation where a relationship was rekindled after so long, and what did you do? What red flags or things to worry about should I be looking for? Comment. Always protect your heart, man. You two are completely different people now and you should treat it as such. Don't see it as a part 2 to your previous marriage. See it as getting to know someone new. A fresh start, be it friends or romantic partners. Be open to either, but don't be desperately hopeful for a specific outcome. Get to know each other again slowly and, if the time comes, have an open and frank discussion about what both of your intentions are. Leave nothing vague. This is the best perspective. They are in their 40s now and are not the people they were in their 20s. It is something new. Good luck. I wish you the best, no matter what you decide. Smiley face. I really like this perspective. It's been a long time, they both have changed so much, it's almost like starting over with someone new, and that could be a beautiful thing, but also an excuse to take things slow. Wow. I don't agree with being second choice at all, or at the snap judgment about her other husband being a sugar daddy. That's a very surface level narrative. She married first, in fact. It sounds like the lifestyle they both wanted diverged at some point, and as a woman I can understand how, if she wasn't ready to have kids at the time, or didn't think she ever would be, how monumental the decision to have one might be when you are the one who would have to carry the baby, and, let's be realistic, often perform more emotional labor once the child is born. Timing is so critical in relationships. I would encourage you to meet up and see how you both feel. You don't need to jump into a relationship tomorrow, just take it slow. You never know what might happen, and if nothing else, enjoy reconnecting with an old friend. You might not even want to get together after you get to know each other again. It doesn't sound like in their original relationship anyone cheated or lied or anything awful. Sometimes people grow apart, and sometimes people can reconnect again. 2-3